Good morning, grade 5. How are you? I hope so you are doing good. Welcome to your English online lecture. And today we are going to do exercise 2 and 3 of lesson number 4 of unit number 1 and exercise 1, 2 and 3 of lesson number 5. I hope so you have done your previous work. Or exercise 2 is listen and put the circles in order. I'm going to read a story and you have to listen that very carefully. After listening, you have to put these 4 pictures in order. So it's your responsibility now to listen it very carefully. You must be holding your lead pencils and you will you will order these pictures. Now I'm gonna start this. Last year, I went on an expedition in the hills. Last year, I went on an expedition in the hills. I was walking along a narrow footpath. I was walking along a narrow means that is not wide. I was walking along a narrow footpath when I fell down. He was walking along a narrow footpath or he fell down. I fell about 100 meters down the hill. I fell about 100 meters down the hill. He went on an expedition where he was walking on a narrow footpath and he fell down and it was about 100 meters high. Luckily, I wasn't hurt. Then, after that, he took the second step. I started walking round the hill, and suddenly I saw a wild bear. It was far away. It was far away. But I was frightened. He got terrified or he was scared. So I ran away and soon came to a river. First he was walking in the hills. After that he was there near the river. He crossed the river. I ran away and soon came to a river. He came to a river. I walked along the river bank. I walked along the river bank. And what is bank? It's the edge of the bank. And found a narrow tree lying across the river. What he found there? He found a narrow tree lying across the river. It was looking like a bridge, you can say. It was in a horizontal position. I walked across the river carefully and very steadily. Uh, but as I was crossing it, I fell off the tree and into the river. While crossing the tree, he fell off into the river. Just remember the sequence. First, he was on the hills. Second, he was near the river. You can say or came to the river, and in the third one, what he did, he was trying to cross the river, or he fell off into the river. I climbed out of the river up the bank. I climbed out of the river up the bank and went on walking. My clothes were wet and my shoes were full of water. I came to a railway line and walked along it. I came to a railway line and walked along it and came to a station. I waited and waited. A train came past later that day, like the specific time when uh, it is later than that time. Later, past later means the particular time the particular time and it is later than that time. जो एग्जैक्ट टाइम था ट्रेन के आने का वो उस टाइम के बाद आई बाय द एंड of that day, and I caught the train home. So he went his home. So do you remember, or have you remembered the sequence? First he was on the hills, and on the second he came near to the river. On the third one he was trying to cross the river, and he fell off into the river. And on the fourth one he reached to a station and he took train for his home. Yes, have you arranged the pictures? Where was he first? He was on the hills. He was on the hills. So, can you see hills in for these pictures? Yes, C1. Very good job. So, it is number 1. It is number 1. And after that, he was near the river where he saw a wild bear. Very good job. And it is D. Yes, D is the second one. After that, he tried to cross the river and he fell off into the river. Yes, B. Very good job. It's the third one. And after that, he reached station and caught the train. Fourth one. Very good job. Come to exercise number 3. Listen again and circle the correct words or phrase. You have to listen while I'm reading. You will underline the correct phrase in these sentences. So let me start. It's reading again. Okay. Last year I went on an expedition in the hills. Last year I went on. What is the correct phrase? Went on. Last year I went on an expedition in the hills. I was walking along a narrow footpath. I was walking along a narrow footpath, and when I fell down, I fell about 100 meters down the hill. I fell about 100 meters down the hill. Luckily, I wasn't hurt. Luckily, I wasn't hurt. I started walking round the hill. I started walking round the hill, and suddenly I saw a wild bear. And suddenly I saw a wild bear. It was far away. It was far away. But I was frightened, so I ran away and soon came to a river. So I ran away and soon came to a river. I walked along the river bank and found a narrow tree lying across the river. I walked along the river bank and found a narrow tree lying across the river. I walked across the river carefully and very steadily. I walked across the river carefully and very steadily. But as I was crossing it, I fell off the tree into the river. I fell off the tree into the river. I climbed out of the river up the bank. I climbed up out of the river up the bank and went on walking. My clothes were wet and my shoes were full of water. My clothes were wet and my shoes were full of water. I came to a railway line and I waited and waited and came to a station. I waited and train came past later that day and I caught the train home. Now, have you underlined the phrases? All of you, very good job. Come to lesson number 5, exercise number 1. Make sentences from the table. There we are just going to add 2 questions in your assignment. You have to write exercise number 1 and exercise number 3 as well in the assignment. That is not included, but now you have to add by yourself. Its first question is make sentences from the table. They have provided us a table and there are 4 columns. And the first one they have given us pictures and the rest 3 are having few clues to complete the sentence. And if you see, you can see in they have given us example of the first one. I was climbing a cliff very carefully when I fell over 20 meters. We have to use fell with the last column. When I fell off, when I fell over, when I fell in, when I fell 20 meters, when I fell down. So we have to know the meanings of these first. Fell off means to come or drop down suddenly to a lower position. To come or drop down suddenly to a lower position. अचानक से नीचे गिरना, ठीक है. Fell over, to lose one's balance and collapse to the ground. जब कोई अपना balance नहीं रख पाता है while walking, so he collapsed to the ground, he fell down. Fell in, to drop or descend under the force of gravity as to lower place through lack of support or loss of support, or you can also say it as to sink in. जैसे किसी चीज़ में गिरना, ठीक है. Fell down, suddenly go down onto the ground unintentionally or accidentally. Now you have to complete the sentences. I'll help you. You have to write the sentences of these 5 pictures in your notes. As the first one is, I was climbing a cliff. That was climb. But now it will be, I was climbing a cliff. And very carefully when I fell 20 meters. When I fell 20 meters. This is the first one. The second one is ski down the hill. Ski downhill. And what is ski? Ski are long pieces of wood. It can be of metal or plastic that are fastened to your boots or the shoes for traveling over snow. ठीक है, ये आपको स्नो पे चलने के लिए फॉर ट्रैवलिंग के लिए हेल्प करता है. स्की आपने याद रखना है. हर सेंटेंस में वी आर गोइंग टू राइट वॉज and by using ing with the verb, and after that very or when I fell. Okay, so I was skiing downhill very steadily. I was skiing downhill very steadily when I fell down. The next one is, I was running along a path. He was running. Look at the boy. He is looking very carelessly. He is looking like he is running carelessly. So, I was running along a path very carelessly when I fell over. Do you remember the meaning of fell over? To lose one's balance and collapse to the ground. He was running very carelessly. He just lose his balance and collapsed to the ground. So I was running along a path very carelessly when I fell over. The next one is the boy is crossing the river very slowly because he is looking very very frightened. Or I was crossing a river very slowly when I fell in. When I fell in. The last one, I was riding a horse very fast. I was riding a horse very fast when I fell off. When I fell off. I have just given the picture for these four phrases, like fell off, fell over, fell in, fell down. You have to remember the meanings. After that, you can match these columns very correctly. Come to exercise number 2. Listen to your teacher's story. Underline the phrases in the table in exercise 3 that you hear. While I'm reading the story, you have to underline the phrases that will be in that passage. You have to underline the phrases that will be in that reading passage. Okay, I'm going to start the next passage. Last year, I went on an expedition in the desert. Last year, I went on an expedition in the desert with my uncle and aunt. Last year, I went on an expedition in the desert with my uncle and aunt. We were riding camels and pulling a cart. We were riding camels and pulling a cart. Unfortunately, we got lost. Unfortunately, we got lost. My uncle carelessly dropped the compass. My uncle carelessly dropped the compass, and we didn't know where we were. And we didn't know where we were. We stayed for a few days in a cave in the hills. We stayed for a few days in a cave in the hills. Luckily, we have enough water. Luckily, we had enough water. On the third day, a helicopter flew close to our campsite. On the third day, a helicopter flew close to our campsite. It was looking for us. It landed and the pilot gave us a map. It landed and the pilot gave us a map and another compass. We rode back to the town on our camels. We rode back to the town on our camels. Unfortunately, we got lost. Unfortunately, we got lost. My uncle carelessly dropped the compass and we didn't know where we were. Unfortunately, we got lost. My uncle carelessly dropped the compass and we didn't know where we were. We stayed for a few days in a cave in the hills. We stayed for a few days in the cave in the hills. Luckily, we had enough water. Luckily, we had enough water. On the third day, a helicopter flew to our campsite. It was looking for us. It landed and the pilot gave us a map and another compass. The pilot gave us a map and another compass. We rode back to the town on our camels. I hope you have underlined the phrases. Like in the first one, that was desert. In the second one, it's uncle and aunt. The third one is camels. Then lots of water. A cart got lost. A cart got lost. Compass and helicopter. Hope so you have underlined the phrases in question number 3. You can match it up at the end of this lecture. Write your own story. Exercise 3 is write your own story by answering these questions. Use the given words or phrases or your own ideas. You have to add exercise 1 and exercise 3 in your assignment. You will write it. Are you getting better? The first question is, where were you traveling? You can choose or you can write it of your own choice: in the mountains, deserts, on the North Pole, in the forest. We have different things you can write as your own. Who were you traveling with? With my parents, with your parents, uncle, aunt, with your friends, cousins, teachers. What were you riding? Camels, horses, bicycles, or yeah, you were having a plane, helicopter, or you were traveling on sledges or the ski. What were you carrying? Backpacks, day pack, lots of water, like food. What were you pulling? Sledges or a cart? What happened? Have you got lost or had an accident, or you traveled successfully, reached your destination successfully? What did you lose, drop, or break? Is something happened to your sledge, your car, your with your vehicle, or if you are having some extra stuff, have you lost that? What did you lose, or drop, or break? We have done this. How did you get back home? By ambulance, helicopter, train, taxi, camels, or with your own uh, like uh, conveyance, with your own car? Are you getting? Now you have to write a story by using all these phrases in this table, or you can write it by your own self, of your own choice, and you will do exercise 1 and 3 as well. See you in the next lecture. Allah Hafiz.